So there's a lot of stuff around, how you move along the journey, how you get past resistance. Resistance is big for a lot of entrepreneurs, how you keep yourself inspired, how you shift from an employee to an entrepreneur mindset. And that's quite big, really. Readjust to another way of being. I had to have a new relationship with rules, for example. As an employee, I had to get at my desk at 9 o'clock and lunch was at 12 or whatever. As an entrepreneur, all those rules go out the window. There's nobody telling me what to do.
Good morning. It's Nicole here, and welcome to this week's episode of The Big Chat. I'm doing this episode from my studio because, I always do it from a studio, but I'm doing it via the power of Zoom because my special guest is very, very busy. He's very hard to get hold of. I was graced with getting to know him through lockdown, and he's just a wonderful, magical man, is all I can say. And I thought, as we're going to be, this will be coming out in December and Christmas, I thought, how much more magical than to talk to someone who really does have a very, just a really amazing outlook on all things to do with our world. And he's also just published another book. He's just literally published another book. So I'm really excited to introduce you to a dear friend of mine, but also an incredible man, Steve Nobel. Hello, Steve.
Hey.
Is that a good enough intro?
Thank you. That was amazing. I'll pay you later. Thank you very much. Very nice.
But thank you so much for coming on, because we were very lucky to see each other at the weekend. I didn't get to see you on your birthday recently.
No.
But we've sort of had a couple of dinners, and we had dinner, and you bought this amazing book.
Yeah. It's a labor of love.
Signs, labor of love. So but I mean, look, before we get stuck into this, tell people, not everyone, I know it's surprising, Steve, but look, your backdrop, everyone can check you out. This is great. I love it. But not everyone is going to know who you are. Or
gosh, that's surprising, isn't it? My kids think I'm famous.
You are famous.
Well, am I famous? Because we were walking along the seafront with my son and daughter-in-law and my granddaughter, and someone stopped me there going, "Oh my God, it's you." And they were like, "What, are you famous?" And then, the dinner party we met at, there was a guy there who turned to someone, I think it may have been Liz, and said, "Is he famous? Why is everyone kind of cooing all over him?" Well,
you do get introduced as the Steve Nobel.
The Steve.
I think I talked to the Mickey a bit on Saturday, and I was like, "He is the Steve Nobel." Yeah, but tell people a bit about you that don't know. You've written a lot of books, but what are you best known for? People like you on YouTube, don't they?
Yeah, they like YouTube. They know me on YouTube. Well, initially they knew me as the director of Alternatives, which is this London-based spiritual organization based in a church, St. James's Church in Piccadilly, which is very near Buckingham Palace, and they have all the they have lots of dignitaries used to go there, and Tony Blair rocked up once and all that kind of stuff. And we used to hold, well, they still do hold talks in the church every week and workshops, and it's been going for nearly 40 years now. I think I left it in 2012 on the winter solstice, very dramatically, to resign winter solstice. And then I've been doing this, and I'm best known, I suppose, for meditations transmissions on YouTube, which has got 137,000+ followers around going, "Oh my God, it's you."
And
so
these
it's nice.
Meditation transmissions. So a lot of our listeners, because obviously we go out to local businesses, and also it's people that I'm inspired by, which you are one of them, of course. But it's, people are more familiar with the word meditation. We know in our world that, a lot of people know what meditation transmissions are. But for those that don't, could you describe a little bit more about that?
So, I used to do writing retreats. I was in Greece, and I was in this little chapel right on the edge of the sea, but you can get about 6 people in this little chapel. It was all by myself. And I started to get this pressure on my head, and it's like, oh my God, what's that? On the kind of crown chakra for your listeners, the crown chakra was like a pressure. And it took me a day or two to work out that someone was trying to communicate with me. And eventually it turned into this transmission. So it was a transmission called the Earth Star Goddess from Greece. And all these beings have been contacting me. I've kind of been opening up to all these beings, from angels to star guides to higher self, all kinds of beings, and they kind of come. I get this transmission through my being, and I kind of record it now, and then I fall in love with them, and then they disappear. It's very strange. Some people doing this kind of work have their guides, Archangel Michael, they fall in love with, he's always there. Mine don't. They kind of come, have an intense love affair, and go. I'm kind of a serial monogamist as a kind of a channel, I suppose. And
so a channel is what you'd say. It's you're channeling, basically.
I think that's probably the closest term to it. And but there are 6 archangels that stay with me, that I work with consistently, which are the horizontal plane, Raphael, Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, and the vertical force plane, Metatron and Sandalphon. And these 6 angels hold the whole space of all of these meditations, transmissions. And so each angel has an energy, a symbol, and a kind of particular colored energy, a feel of energy. And over time, people follow it and they get used to calling and being held in this way. And it's kind of creating, I think it created a group field of energy that people go in and they just tap into it. It's like, oh yeah, I've done this before, tap in, boom, they've gone straight into it because they've gone down that path so many times, it's familiar to them. So yeah.
So is this obviously this is a conversation we're having for everyone listening, not to you and I've had many conversations, but is this something, because that for a lot of people that'll be like angels, and people are much more open to alternative ways of thinking now, and certainly working with energy and different fields, and we're all understanding a bit more about the impact that we have on each other without even touching each other, mental health and all of those well-being areas. But with, a lot of people will be like, oh, not everyone, thank goodness, but a lot of people are like, what does that mean? That's was that always something that you really were interested in? Were you always interested? I mean, I've read some of your book and you'd always been interested in sort of alternative ways of thinking and philosophy, but how did that sort of, was it literally that light bulb moment where you were like, oh, you got that transmission and then that was it was your way of life?
Well, as a kid, I was interested in all kinds of stuff, odd and weird and sci-fi and magical. And as a teenager, I kind of went to sleep thinking, oh, become normal, let go of all this stuff. So then I woke up in my 30s and started following it again. My mind was saying to me, how do you know this is real? How do you know this is real? And I think a lot of people ask the question, well, it all sounds lovely, all that great stuff. And my mind was asking this question. And I had this session with a healer once. Well, actually, I used to see her every week for quite a while. And I had my eyes closed and she had her hands in my energy field, and she had her hands probably about 5 feet away from me, way up. And my eyes were closed. And I said, I can feel your hand. Mm. And she said, where is it then? And I told her and she said, open your eyes. And there it was. I'm like, oh my God, I could feel her hand 5 feet. And there's no way the heat, I could feel her hand, you can't feel it 5 feet away. And we did it a few times and I'm like, oh, that's so amazing. And I just was going out thinking, oh, God. And she told me this statement, you create your reality. This is a new age statement, you create your reality. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And then I got to try it all out and it started to work. I started creating car parking spaces beyond, coincidence and other things. And I really pushed the universe a lot, going, I want to know it's real. And I really did push the universe. I did some really weird things. I'll give one example was, I went down the West End of London on a double yellow line. I parked my car there and I surrounded it with light and went to see a film. And I said, that car is not going to be touched. No ticket, no towing away. And I came out and there it was. And I was pushing, more than that. And then I got the universe told me at one point, okay, enough. You've worked it out that it does work now. Just get on with it. And so I've kind of learned to trust and not to keep pushing the universe. Is it real? Is it real? I kind of know it's real now. And I think everyone who is on the path or is attracted to the path needs to answer the question for themselves. How do I know this is real? I need some experience that tells me it's real, whatever the experience is. And it's going to be different for different people, really.
And it's interesting. I mean, it's a mutual friend of ours, Anna, she calls it Black Panther, parking Black Panther, that puts literally calls it in, and that's it. You don't get a ticket, and it does work. And actually, someone else that I've spoken to who definitely isn't in any way alternative, he's always said, I can manifest car parking spaces. I mean, it does. it's so there's those simplistic things, but there's synchronicities of life, aren't they, that actually demonstrate that we do have much more power than we realize.
Yeah, I do believe we create our reality from the inside out, from our belief systems, stories, thinking, emotions, choices, actions. It all contributes to our reality. And I was brought up thinking that I had no power over my reality. I had nothing, it's all
Yeah.
my mother had the power, or my father
Yeah.
had the power, the boss, or
Yeah.
my wife, or the government, But when I look at this bunch in power now in Britain, I think, well, they kind of seem to have power, but what a bunch of idiots managing this global crisis, so-called crisis. So yeah, I think that we are learning that we create our reality from the inside out, and we're testing it out and then coming together in groups, and we will create a new world eventually as we start co-creating together. But we're in that phase. We're not quite there yet. We're still in the kind of weird, strange landscape in the world at the moment.
We're in the transition period.
Yeah, big one.
But I mean, also, when we talk about that, how much must you have seen things change, even in, like you said, that you left the school in 2012, was it you said that? I mean,
Alternatives, yeah.
alternatives, like in 10 years, how much have you seen a change? And in the 10 years before that, how much have you seen? Because even myself, having been a yoga teacher up till 10 years ago, I stopped teaching 10 years ago. Even then, from then to now, I see such a dramatic difference. I mean, it's just huge.
Yeah. Well, when I first started as director of alternatives, one of the things I wished this would all go mainstream, because it'll be brilliant if it goes mainstream. And it started to go mainstream. There was publishers jumped in, Hay House and other publishers, and suddenly you got a flood of, if you go into Waterstone bookshop there's a flood of spiritual books everywhere. If you go on the internet, there's a flood of stuff. You go on TED Talks, people are talking openly. So suddenly it's all gone more mainstream. You have The Secret, that film, The Secret.
Yeah.
But one of the things about it is the unfortunate side of that is that there's a lot of kind of sound bites and a lot of stuff where it's all a bit fluffy and there's no substance to it. I do hear a lot of, everyone now is a life coach in Bali. A friend of mine was in Bali going, there's all these 20-year-olds being life coaches, and how do they know about life to tell other people at 20? And I think you do need some life experience before you become a life coach, actually. So in the whole field, there's a lot of people who jumped on. And one of the big things for people now is, what's the right teacher? What's the right path? There's so much choice, actually, when you look at it. And from when I left alternatives, I did as much as I could do there, to now, I mean, my path is I've got even weirder than when I was weird when I was at alternatives. My kid, Dad, you're weird, But now I've sailed off in the sunset as far as
wonderful weird, Steve.
Wonderfully weird. But I see what's happening is there is an awakening of people. That wasn't happened before. People are waking up. Lots of kids are waking up, already awake, a lot of them. What's happening in the world now? Who could have predicted this nonsense going on in the world? But that is also waking up a lot of people to what's really going on in the world, who's running the world, and all this kind of thing. So I'm very hopeful that we're in this period of transition. It's difficult and dark, but the light is definitely there at the end of the tunnel. So but people are being tested. This is a school of hard knocks, planet Earth. I think it's not an easy place.
It's just, I mean, I often joke. I think maybe said this to you at the weekend. I've certainly said it to people before. I feel like life is one of those journeys where you're possibly going to get to the end. And, people say that at the end you see like a tunnel of light. I think what that is the tunnel of light is actually being born again if you haven't got it right. And you literally get to that point where you're like, oh, there's the light, there's the tunnel at the end. Oh my God, I've worked it all out. And then you're washed of your memories and you have to come back and do it all over again, unless you got it right. And then you get onto a higher ascension. That's my kind of theory a little bit, because it does seem like there's a lot of lessons to be learned. And if you don't correct those lessons or learn from them, you keep having those experiences again. I mean, talk to me about the dark night of the soul. I'm really interested in this, very interested. You talked a bit about this in your book, that you experienced this. Is that a period of, how would you describe that to someone that hasn't heard that terminology before, Steve?
So if people understand the word crisis, which is like, you're unemployed, you're sick, your wife leaves you, or whatever, then you go in a crisis. A dark night of the soul is an existential crisis where the crisis is external. There could be external things happening, but most of it's internal. There's a complete collapse of meaning, a collapse of identity, a collapse of who am I? What am I here to do? Why am I doing this? That used to be meaningful. It's not meaningful anymore. I used to love that person. I feel neutral now. And it's a complete shift internally. And it's like all the anchors of my life when it happened in 2010 was the beginning, were pulled up. You know, I had to resign from alternatives because this dark night was kicking off, and I couldn't really hold an organization anymore like that. My long-term partner and us started separating. We sold our place. Every single anchor went, and I was like, it's like being adrift on a boat, you know, and thinking, I don't know where this current is taking me. But it was really dark and difficult. I had dark nightmares. I was feeling I was being chased nightly by dark forces and dark entities or whatever it was. And then I started coming out. None of the healing methods worked. None of the meditation stuff I did before worked. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm completely in a new zone. It's really strange. But it taught me a lot. It taught me a bit about facing darkness. And of course, now a lot of the clients I work with have gone through their own darkness or facing various forms of darkness. So it's made me less afraid, or not unafraid of the dark, really. You know, I'd say I've looked at it and it was pretty nasty, and I've come out. I didn't think I would survive, actually. I really thought I would end this lifetime. I looked down at the Thames a couple of times thinking it's so painful being in this body that I could easily jump in. And it was that strong, really.
And I think collectively a lot of people have experienced that. You know, they've been forced to experience some level of that recently with what's happened.
Yeah.
But I mean, that in itself, I think, like you say, a lot of people relate to it as a crisis. When did that start to come? When did you start to come out of that? You know, for people that are listening that are thinking, oh my God, I can relate. As you well know, because we've had a few sessions together, you know, my innermost dark secrets. So
very dark.
Yeah, very dark. I'm a very dark individual, Steve, as you know. But you know, for those that are literally suffering and are hearing this and thinking, God, I can really relate to that. What, like you say, you tried lots of different things and it didn't help, and you really got to the point where you were like, that, you know, the end is more attractive than being. I mean, that's a place that none of us want to be, but many of us have gone. What got you?
Well,
you know?
I do believe that. I think Wayne Dyer wrote this book. There's a spiritual solution to every problem, and I always believed that. But it's just that all the solutions that used to work stopped working. But I did find spiritual solutions that work. I found a couple of healers, 2 healers actually, that finally went, yeah, I know what's going on. Okay, let's do this, this, and this. And I'm like, oh God, goodness, I'm feeling better. I'm coming out, and it's helped me on my path, because I needed to know those things to help other people. I'm like, oh, for example, if people heard the idea of chakras, my throat chakra was completely switched off.
Completely.
It was like completely switched off. And then I was so in this dark place, I didn't realize. And they said, oh, your throat chakra switched off. Let's switch it on again. And then I started like, oh my gosh, I started to come alive, and I started to feel myself again. The channel up to source, and my intuition started switching on again. And then I met another healer who said, oh, I dreamt about, I contacted her through a mutual friend who said, oh, you got to go and see Almira. And I contacted her. She said, oh, I had a dream of you, and yeah, I knew you were coming, and here you are. And I worked with her for a year or so, and then I did some training with her, and she was great. She helped me out. I did something called light body surgery, which was kind of really way out.
Wow.
I wouldn't tell my kids that. They go, Dad, we don't want to hear this stuff. You know,
You're
we
gonna
don't
hear it now.
Yeah.
Everyone knows now. Light body surgery. That sounds magnificent. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, it's like working surgically on the energy body. It's not, you haven't got any scalpels or anything, but you're kind of going into people's energy field and pulling out and all of that. So yeah, I do love all this weird stuff, because it makes me understand we live in a magical universe and weird stuff happens, and there's a solution. Everything has an energetic solution, you know, and so that's the level I go in people's mental body, emotional body, chakra systems, and find out what's happening. You know, I'm actually booked up to February. It's quite mad.
I mean, it's definitely. I mean, for those that haven't done any energy work, and I would like to think that most people have done some work with a healer, or, you know, even like Reiki or massage. I went and had I went and saw an osteopath recently, and I didn't actually realize that his clinic was, it was also quite an alternative clinic. Of course, I just got drawn there. I went in there thinking I was going to get prodded around.
Yeah.
And actually, we were doing the sounding, and he was tuning into the fact I had a broken heart, could point my exact point of pain on my body without
Right.
me telling him where it was. And it was all linked to my emotional well-being.
Yeah.
Also pointed out some things that had happened to me when I was much younger that I totally blanked over, that was really having an impact on me now. And so it's just, there is no doubt in my mind, about it, because I've had so many experiences that there is no way. Once you see, you can't unsee, can you?
Yeah, you found your way of, is this real? Yes, it is. And you found your own way of going, yes, it's real. We all need to find that way, and
We
have that
do.
moment. And there's no turning back. You look at the universe with new eyes. Reality, you can't see the same old reality. I don't see it anymore, really.
No.
And like the current crisis that's going on, I look out and I'm like, oh, I have to remind myself, oh yeah, there is something going on. Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah.
Well, it's like you. There's a point in your book, isn't there? We'll talk about your book in a sec, Steve.
Oh yeah. Oh, the
There's a
book.
point.
I forgot about the
But
book. Yeah.
I know, it's so nice to talk to you. We forget we're even being recorded here. But the book as well, there's a point in the book where you say, try out just not reading the paper or not watching the news, or just literally, and I would invite everyone to do that for a while. I mean, I've, recently sort of had a break from some social media, and even that has just made me just much more focused on the life I'm sort of doing and being and enjoying, because we can get sucked up into so much stuff, can't we?
Yeah.
And I think there's been some great quotes recently about the media, and things that are made up, unfortunately. And if you choose to sort of respond to the media, you've got to take it with a pinch of salt, as I tell my dear mum when she's always telling me what's going down in certain newspapers that I won't name for legal reasons. But it's the way it is. But if you want to stay true to yourself and keep going forwards, I think you need to feel what's going on around you and try not to be influenced so much with all this other stuff, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I used to think to some extent that the newspapers and different channels were reasonably independent. And people think, well, if a lot of intelligent minds come to the same conclusion, it must be the truth. But actually, if you look at the papers, what I see is a narrative that's being spewed out which you could say is propaganda, really. To me, it's propaganda that's being spewed out. And there is not a lot of intelligent minds going on. It's just like, here's the script, read it, or you're fired. That's what I think is actually probably going on. There may be some intelligent people who believe the narrative and are let loose to rant and do what they want to do. But there is a narrative. And I think in America, there's a lot of things on this operation, was it Mockingbird, I think, in America, how much the CIA controlled the American media. And I thought, well, that's America. We don't do that in Britain. But now I see with this current crisis and what's been going on, and also on all of the main channels like Facebook, the thing is that any debate has been stifled. Democracy is debate, right? There's no debate. There's no alternative views. Any alternative views, you're off. You're put in Facebook prison or whatever, or or any doctor that comes out will be struck off, apparently, this kind of thing, or nurses are sacked. And so that's not a democracy. Something else is happening now, and that we're in propaganda land. So people need to know that.
They do need to know that. And do you think as well, like, obviously you've got a lot of people follow you and speak to you through YouTube and channels like that. I mean, I know Russell Brand's been speaking a lot about at the moment in the States, the fact that news channels, they're losing their power. Not so many people are watching the news channels. They're going to either social media platforms. I mean, I'm not saying there isn't propaganda in social media, but there is everywhere. But people are being able to have more independence as to where they get their information from, whereas like you say before, a decade ago or a couple of decades ago, it was just the news. Before that was 4 channels. I mean, now we've got so many other sources we can go to. Do you think that's helped to increase the knowledge and the power of individuals, because we are able to find out more?
I think on the one hand, yes, it's helped people who really know what they're looking for, who like researching and go, oh, this is true, that's disinformation. They kind of worked it out. But there's a lot of people also that are a bit confused. Oh, it's too many channels, too much. Oh, I don't know. So for a number of people who know how to research, it's great. For some people, I think it's just overwhelming and they want to switch it off.
Yeah.
too many places to go. I used to have several apps on my phone. I actually deleted them all. And I used to go around Al Jazeera, is it, the Russian news one. I wanted to see all these different perspectives on what's going on in the world, so you can get a bit of a rounded picture. But now I think what's going on, there's not even a rounded picture anymore. Nobody's really speaking the truth on the main platforms. They're all pretty controlled. So yeah, look on go find alternative sources. There is some great channels at BitChute. There's some brand YouTube. There's some very alternative London Real. There are these other channels which
I love Gaia TV as well. I watch a lot of Gaia TV, and I think you know what? I think I found you randomly, and I know I have said this to you before, but I'll say it again. Before I even sort of you came into the picture, as it were, through lockdown. I'd heard you on the radio, weirdly, like a few years previously. I'd heard you because when I spoke to you, when I had a session with you, I recognized your voice. And it was really weird because I was like, this is like an out of body experience, because I'm having a conversation with a person and I remember very clearly the conversation. It was a chat with someone, and it was about your experience. And I remember at the time, it was a few years ago, that I'd almost been like, wow, that sounds really out there for me to think that, and then speaking to you, and that to me is life. You sort of think of someone, don't you, and then the next minute you're talking to them at a dinner party, or
you manifested me.
I manifested you, exactly. Well, we manifest each other, don't we? It's amazing. But tell everyone, I mean, I am excited about this book because it's the spiritual entrepreneur. I know that's going to look backwards on this screen, but which is really interesting for people that are listening as well, because you know what, there's been you do a lot of helping people. You help everybody, Steve, but also in business as well, because actually there are a lot of alternative businesses now, and but not just alternative, just all sorts of businesses. And this is really about being a true entrepreneur and being in tune with your spiritual self, isn't it? Would you say?
How would
you describe this book?
Well, it's for anybody with spiritual values, spiritual interests, who wants to run their own business or has their own business, who wants to up their game. It's for any coach or healer or therapist or anybody making jewelry, or anyone with a. I mean, I'm not looking to Marks. No CEO of Marks and Spencer's is probably going to read it, but you never know. They might do. But it's about
write this book, because you've written how many books? This is number 9, is it?
Six.
Sorry,
Yeah.
9.
6.
I was just upside down. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
It was in my head.
Well, I wrote it. I write all my books for myself, so I actually can read it and go, oh yeah, that's really good. And so I've written this as a kind of reference to me. If I get kind of lack inspiration, I kind of pick it up and go, oh yeah, that's right, that's what I need to do. Or so there's a lot of stuff around, how you move along the journey, how you get past resistance. Resistance is big for a lot of entrepreneurs, how you keep yourself inspired, how you shift from an employee to an entrepreneur mindset. And that's quite big, really, because I was an employee for a long time, and then I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and my mind and my system had to readjust to another way of being. I had to have a new relationship with rules. For example, as an employee, I had to get at my desk at 9 o'clock and lunch was at 12 or whatever. As an entrepreneur, all those rules go out the window. There's nobody telling me what to do, and you can bend the rules as well. I'm not saying to people to break the law, but I'm saying some rules, especially the internal rules about how things have to be broken or bent, because we have a lot of rules. Often we grow up with these rules. Our sense of identity has to shift from I'm a cog in a machine to maybe a happy cog to I'm forging my own destiny. There's a work ethic that has to be looked at, the 3D puritanical Protestant work ethic that, if anybody listens to this in America, that's the capital of it, because they are nuts with this one over there. When I go over there, I actually channeled the new work ethic, 5D work ethic, which is in the book, which is we're not a worker or a grafter, nose to the grindstone. We're a player. It's about creativity. It's about intuition. It's the new game. And even companies like Google recognize this. It's about those companies which are the most creative are the ones who are succeeding, even the big ones. So it's changing our thinking, changing our mindset, changing our way of moving in the world, our choices, looking at moving beyond resistance. And then it's looking at the energy of vibration and how our business is vibration, how we are vibration, how we can start shifting the vibration of our business. I mean, it's just so much in there. I mean, I packed it full. It's kind of little bite-sized chapters, and there's loads of them. There's quite a big book, actually.
It's big, but it's really, I read a lot actually last night. I've been reading it, since you gave it to me at the weekend, but I really like the way that there's like little exercises in there to do as well.
Yeah.
There's what I like that in books, and there's also really, really beautiful quotes. It's really, I mean, I would recommend everyone get a copy and have a look at it, because it is, like you say, there's a lot of books out there, but this is really about sort of, finding your own calling, isn't it? And working with it.
Well, most business books of this kind of genre are either very yang, which are, masculine, elbow out the competition, go for it, build your team, build the sales, have an exit plan, and I've read a few of those, and they are like, oh my God, really? And then there are these new yin ones which are coming, which are like, just trust and go with the flow and everything will be all right, and have a nice affirmation in the morning. And I think, it's very nice, but actually what you need is a combination of the two, the best of the two, that creates the synergy of the two. And there's a whole section in the synergy of the masculine and feminine, because it's not about elbowing people out of the way anymore. And it's not about just lighting a candle in the morning, wafting some incense over you and going, well, let's hope it's all right today. It's about, there's a lot more you can do with it. Your feminine intuition, imagination, sense, sources of inspiration, and your masculine ability to plan, strategically think, and move and choose. All these things come together, and it creates, I think, genius is created out of that synergy, actually. And there's so many people I meet who are,
then, isn't it?
There's what?
It's a harmony then of the two, isn't it? That's
I'd see loads of clients, loads of entrepreneurs, and a lot of them are either too yang. And an example would be, I had some coach said, oh, I'm doing coaching of blah, blah. And I looked at their website and I said, this is a corporate website. And they went, is it? And I said, look at it. You look corporate, and the whole bullet point is corporate. But most of the clients I see are all very yin. Oh, come by my sessions if you like, and it'll all be lovely. And I'm like, well, that doesn't say anything. What are you trying to say? You're not selling yourself. A lot of entrepreneurs have a big resistance about being visible. Visibility. And it shows up of I want to be visible, but I'm a bit scared, so I'll just be half visible. I won't be seen anywhere. So I mean, I've seen a friend of mine who's a brilliant healer does not doing very well, not many clients, because she is afraid to be visible, and she hasn't worked out how to be visible. And she has a reason why she wants to be visible. Member of her family is a bit nuts, but I say, until you work that out, you're going to be hiding from your clients. And she still hasn't worked it out, so she's still hiding.
And that visibility is being being who you are, being an expression of yourself.
And be totally weird. One of the things I say to spiritual entrepreneurs is, your weirdness is your brilliance. Be weird. Don't be normal. Too many people are trying to fit in and be normal. Don't be as weird as you possibly can be, in alignment with who you are. The moment I became weird and allowed myself to become weird was when I became truly abundant and successful, really, and visible. And people, I just opened up a Telegram channel on my, Telegram's great because you can open a channel, and I did it 10 days ago, and it's 2,000 people nearly following me now, going, oh, we love your little space, and it's so lovely, and all of that.
But but also, I think with your so also some of the work that you do, when you certainly with meditation and sessions that you do with clients as well, because you obviously write books, you do meditations, you do transmissions, but you also do sessions with clients. And you've just mentioned there that you work with coaches and entrepreneurs. But I mean, there's like cord cutting. I mean, that I like a bit of cord cutting. I think we might have a bit more cord cutting we need to do, you and I. As I mentioned at the weekend, I might be talking to you after this session, but that was really powerful for me, because for me personally, before I'd worked with you, I'd not experienced anything like that. Now I understand that energy, like, I feel people's energy very much so, and I'm very intuitive and I'm pretty tuned in, but I'm also a little bit scared, as you know, of certain things. Just of myself, really, to be fair. I mean, I was talking to someone the other day, and I said something about my dad, and who's not with us anymore, or not on this plane anyway, and this musical box that I've not been able to get to work all weekend for my kids. The Christmas box just started playing. It was like something,
Right.
it was just like, ding, 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 and I was like, oh, there's Grandad, you know, thank you very much. But the cord cutting, I'm digressing there totally as usual. The cord cutting for me, we were working particularly with me with things that were kind of holding me back, let's say, without disclosing our conversation. And you cut these energetic cords, and it was incredibly powerful. That must be in business as well. Some of the cords, energetic cords with people or belief systems or things that have happened, must have a huge impact, and people don't even know they're carrying it around with them.
Yeah, there's many elements really, but you know, if you're in a power struggle with someone, you're usually having cords pushing into your solar plexus. You can feel, I mean, you can feel the power. You can feel the anger of another person trying to push in or whatever. Or if you feel betrayed, you know, the idea of the knife in the back, it's really the knife in the back of the heart. The cord comes in the back of the heart, and you feel it. You've got this kind of you know, or there might be someone who goes. Typically, something happens as a child, and a parent doesn't want you to say anything about it, and there's something in the throat. No, you can't speak of that. No one must speak of that. Or someone does speak of something, and it causes mayhem, and then suddenly the throat goes thump, and there may be all kinds of stuff needs to be cut in the throat. If codependency is often in the base chakra, sexual cords in the sacral, you know, and even if you've never been intimate with someone could be fantasizing over you and just sending this projection, and you get it right in the sacral, the belly area. There's all these chakra system, and depending on the nature of the issue is where the cords go, and front and back, you know, often the back and the front. We've got to cut all of it. And you know, weirdly, a lot of people who have a lot of religious beliefs have cords with the church. Some religious system, it's not a person, but a system can cord into. People on benefits don't realize that they're going for the little handout, but that system is plugging into them. I had an experience of this when I had a brief period of you know, being on enterprise allowance, I think it was called. And I thought, my gosh, there's something plugging into me. It's a system plugging in. Well, we'll give you a little bit of money if we can take your energy. And it's kind of weird. We live in a weird universe. So
I mean, and goodness me, right now, I mean, there was something on the radio yesterday that my my children's dad was talking to me about with the bounce back loans, and there's, you know, uproar about bounce back loans for businesses because a lot of businesses haven't been able to go back to business because the lockdown's gone so long. I mean, that's a load of plugins, isn't it? I mean, you know, into businesses, into people's, not just bounce back loans, but everything that people have had experience of over the past couple of years. There's a lot of plugins there. So,
a lot.
Well, so what can people do for mere mortals like I that aren't quite as magical as yours, dear? And we're all magical.
Oh, you are.
Thank you. I like that little bit of glitter there or something.
Yeah,
But
stardust.
what stardust? What you know, what can people do to sort of to tune into this a little bit more if they're interested? Obviously, they can check you out, thesoulmatrix.com, and they can read your book. But for a beginner, if someone's listened to this and thought, wow, this is really interesting, this really resonates with me, but it's quite a lot. How would you recommend people sort of start exploring?
Go on my YouTube channel, and there's lots of super quick meditations of 22 minutes, connecting with your higher self, connecting with a guide, or just connecting in with yourself. Or there's one, gratitude, self-love. There are simple ones, defragging the mind, emotional healing. Go on there, because what I've planned to do and what is happening is I've created a library of resources that people go, well, I've got an issue. What can I do about it? Well, there's cord cutting, there's clearing the evil eye, there's this, there's that. So go on there, you'll find loads of playlists under health, relationships, soul mission, chakra system, angels, star beings. So I've created a whole library, because actually the way these things come is higgledy-piggledy. It would be lovely if I just got 20 transmissions that followed one after the other, but it doesn't happen that way often. I get, here's a star race, here's an angel, but now what's happened is they've all aggregated into playlists, so now they're making sense. I go, oh right, there's a whole load there that kind of fit together. So at the beginning it was like, oh, I do apologize, I'm sorry, I was there, now I'm channeling that, but now I get what they're doing. It's not been a logical process, but now there's a whole library being formed. So
amazing.
Go there.
I love that. And are you looking forward to Christmas? Are you?
I am. I love Christmas
with your family. Do you look at your face like, I love Christmas? I love it. I know.
all the presents and the trees.
All the presents. that
And
come first, did it, Steve?
well,
Present.
the grandkids, because I've got 4 grandkids, and I love their little faces. I give them loads of
Oh,
presents. I take them all out for a tribal dinner. We have the whole tribal, because there's a big tribe of them,
yeah.
a gathering. We take them to a restaurant, have dinner. I went and bought these lovely crackers with raw chocolate in, cost a
Oh,
fortune. I
wow.
want them all to have a lovely, they look beautiful, and we're going to go to this big restauranty place, and and so once a year, it's just nice to celebrate. I think we should celebrate all year round, Diwali, Christmas, all of it. Every
Well,
day should be a
we
celebration.
like celebrations, don't we? We had a good celebration. It
Oh, it's
was
fabulous. It was
yeah, it
lovely.
was fabulous. It was too much fun, way too much fun.
Yeah.
But no, well, listen, I mean, thank you so much for coming and talking to me about
My
this.
pleasure.
It's really exciting to I definitely manifested this as well. I've wanted to talk to you for some time, but
Oh,
it's
yeah.
the right time.
Oh, it's the right
And
time.
for those that are thinking about going out on their own, maybe going from being an employee to entrepreneur, business owner, or starting something out, what would be your little golden stardusty nugget of wisdom before we sign off today?
One of the biggest issues is what people call confidence, but really, it's there's no such thing as confidence. There's no tank of confidence we can fill up, really. But the thing to do around that is be inspired. I make inspiration a daily practice. Surround yourself with people who are upbeat, supportive, who will support your dreams. Not, oh, be careful, dear, you're going to fall down a hole and disappear in the never to be seen again. You need to be creating friends around who are on the path, and mutual support is great, like hang out with people like you, Anna, that actually we understand the journey. We know what it's like. We may have different avenues of entrepreneur. So hang out with those people, go on TED Talks, go on these places, go and search for people who are doing it, find books like mine and others. Just stay inspired, get lots of ideas, go out, have lots of silence, sit in the forest, meditate, in the bath, wherever you want to do it. Start tuning into your own intuition. Intuition is the most important thing, because your intuition will save you making a load of mistakes and help you get on your path. My intuition is something I tune into all the time, and it's saved me a lot of heartache and helped me on the path a lot. Yeah.
I think that is a key thing, is people listening to their intuition. It's that voice in your gut that sometimes we try and suppress it. And it's like, no, you need to tune into that and listen.
Yeah, the head says business plan. The gut says, forget that. We're gonna go this way. I mean, I actually had an argument with somebody on alternatives. They said, what's your business plan for the next 5 years? I said, I don't want a business plan. Everything changes year to year. I want to have a goal or an intention, but can you imagine all the business plans have been destroyed by COVID,
I business plans, it's interesting because I've always worked, I always say organically, but I have, that's always the way I've worked. And there always seems to be a way that things, if you sort of listen and follow your own dance, there just seems to be a way of working things out. And often when you do go around, the houses, or it goes a bit of a wrong direction, it's because you needed to learn something. That's what I found. So there's no sort of wrong in right, really, if you follow your intuition, I think. So well, thank you, Steve. And your YouTube channel, we could just find you, it's just your name.
Steve Nobel.
The Steve Nobel.
The Steve Nobel.
Well, listen, very much love to you. Thank you for joining us on the Big Chat. And huge love. I can't wait to see you soon. And thanks again. Bye, Steve.
Bye.